Oh, what's a pool all about? If you ever owned a pool, you know algae's always a problem, but the National Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool has become a bigger problem than that. What's the big deal? That's what I'm saying. But CNN is acting like they just found their next Watergate. Is it just simple blue-haired, green-haired, lefty loons cheering for the algae, which is actually happening, which we'll see here in a second, or is it something more sinister than that? Because if it goes to the sinister side, we're talking about the V word, vandalism, then you got to draw the line. Because this is a national monument, by the way. And I think what we found out last night about this thing revealed a lot more than what we were told to believe. But we'll get into it. Now it matters. Didn't before, but now it does. Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate you. Wicked Radio live stream and podcast on X and YouTube and Facebook. Audio podcast, always right there wherever you like to get them. Thank you so much for following along. A lot more on the audio side, and I appreciate you, as always, for that. Let's get right into it. Let's start with some of the latest. Let's play a little, see if you can guess the sound. What's the sound of this that happened yesterday afternoon in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital? That, my friends, is the sound of President Trump personally flying over the Lincoln Memorial Reflecting Pool to find out what the heck is going on himself. And it's so funny when you follow enough news stories or any particular president. They're all like this, you know, when they're deep into their term, and we're into Trump's second term now. But whether it's Biden or Obama, Clinton was the same way. When they wear their emotions on their sleeve, it's kind of easy to tell how they're feeling about certain things. They can't always hide it. Yeah, and I think it's pretty easy to tell that Trump is pissed. We'll get to the press conference he had yesterday where a lot of the questions revolved around not the big stuff, not the things that the news report, not that ABC or CNN or anybody else could cover about Fauci and the latest we heard about him. More on that for another day. All the other things going on. What's the latest with the Iran deal? Are they breaking the ceasefire? No, the majority of the questions yesterday were all about the reflecting pool. And he answered them. Now, let's go back a little bit. What did we see the end of last week, into the weekend, even into this week? We saw the algae enthusiasts, right? And everybody kind of laughed, and it was like, okay, are they there to cause damage? Are they doing it? No, they're just kind of wacky. And here they are.
Algae is doing good today, honey. Team Algae, we're sweethearts. Everybody's proud of you.
All right. And they've organized, and now they're calling themselves Team Algae. Like this lady.
Let's grow, Algae. Let's grow. Woo!
Fine. I mean, they're not breaking any laws, right? They're just kind of kooky. Everybody kind of asked the question. There's this algae breakout. All these news outlets are now talking about the algae in the reflecting pool. It was beautiful like 4 days ago. Did they cause it? That never really seemed to be a viable story, did it? I mean, you're looking at them. I don't think they're actual chemists or scientists or have the ability to, like, pour something in there. They're just wacky kooks in costumes and signs that say Team Algae, and they're rooting for the algae, and they're talking to it. And they had a little rally over the weekend. I think it was on Sunday. They're not doing anything wrong. It's actually within their rights to be goofy by the side and calling themselves Team Algae. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's nothing. But my God, this was the first part of the story, and this was from a few days ago. They're not the only ones, but CNN and ABC and all the other networks, they covered this thing like they just found their next Watergate. We've got it. Look at the algae. Look at President Trump was so proud of his pool. $14 million. More on the cost in a second. $14 million, and now it's algae. First of all, this thing has always been, if you ever looked into the history of it, and a lot of that is popping up now in your newsfeed, this thing has always been a bit of a construction nightmare. They built it so many years ago on a swamp. It actually was sinking. Back in the Jimmy Carter administration, they tried to figure out how they could actually raise it up because it was sinking down because of the weight of the whole thing. We know about the other previous projects. Even President Bush tried to fix this thing. Obama spent, by the way, this is now documented, $34 million in various project contractors to try to fix this thing. But they're harping on the $14 million President Trump spent on this. And then when they got the algae, this was the investigative reporting that CNN is known for and ABC is known for and all the other networks, right? Now think of in the timeline all the other things they could have been. Did they talk about what outgoing Director of National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard said about Fauci, that they basically have the goods on him? No. They kind of walked away from the Iran story because after J.D. Vance kind of Yeah, dropped the hammer on them last night. Looks like we're going to get our way. No, they're not talking about that. They're talking about Algae Gate. Oh, this is how they win their
It's
enemies.
not clear. You can see all the debris still floating through the water here. Lots of it. And I will point out that algae comes from microscopic spores. So that does not offer any proof that the algae is gone. What's more, that famous blue coating on the bottom, look, right there is some of it. And this is one of the areas that has been passed over some. Same all the way around.
Oh, that's when they first started to notice, wait a minute, the blue covering. So what they did was in the project, the beautiful reflecting pool there, when they had drained it, they put a coating under there. There was like a rubbery substance on there. Not only the algae, but when CNN focused the camera in on the water, they got algae. And look! Oh, some of Trump's blue covering is coming up. Oh, $14 million. And they keep harping on that. And again, remember all the other stories they could have been talking about, all the other things, all the real actual stories here. First of all, it's a reflecting pool with zero circulation and no filtration. Algae has always been a thing. Don't tell that to them, though. They were, and remember, this story is like 3-4 days old. That was a report from a few days ago. So it grew and grew, and then, hold on, and then we get to the other sinister part of the story, because so far there's nothing really wrong. Algae, common occurrence, but CNN all worked up about it. You've got the Team Algae weirdos on the side. They're not really doing any harm. They're just being goofs in a public park. That's okay. But then everybody started looking into this blue surface on the bottom. Why is that coming up, and how does that actually happen? I asked the question too. Was it faulty construction? I think it's a fair question to ask, even if Trump is your favorite president, even if you voted for him. We all love the improvements of the national parks and the monuments and all that good stuff. It's a fair question to ask. Was it faulty construction? Maybe they got a bad construction job. Maybe not. Because here we go with the press conference just yesterday, where remember the beginning clip I showed you, where he personally flew over this thing to see for himself to confirm some of the reports he was being told. Again, this press conference yesterday, a majority of the questions about the freaking reflecting pool, not the other issues. Well, now it's an issue, and here was his answer. Remember I told you he's pissed? Tell me you don't think he is.
Are the contractors who did the initial work with the reflecting pool, are they to blame for the current condition, or is it
No,
the vandals?
we had vandalism. No, vandals. We have I think 290, 300-foot slit right through it, probably a box cutter or a knife of some kind. Or we had people lifting up the basic, it's not a lot of damage, but we'll probably have to let the water out and refix it. They went in there with...
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Even yesterday, I was asking questions after this, and maybe you did too. Wait a minute. After the flyover, he was told by Park Service that they had 100-some-odd foot gash on this thing, that someone was able to cut it. And I'm thinking, maybe you were too and still are. How do you get it? The thing isn't that deep, but I mean, still, how would you actually get into that and be able to do it? That would take some organization and some, in a way, sophistication. And now we're beyond just the Team Algae freaks with the green hair on the side and the dinosaur costumes. There's nothing really wrong with them. We've moved beyond them. It's not an algae issue. Now that the president is obviously talking about vandalism with this, now it's a separate thing. I don't know about you. This is how I feel about it. At first, if it's just an algae thing, I kind of expected that because they've never been able to fix that. You've got Team Algae on the side rooting for it. Fine, that's whatever. Okay, but now you're talking about, this is where, personally, I got to draw the line. If you're vandalizing one of our national symbols, and it just is. Maybe you've never been there. Maybe you don't want to go there. Maybe you've never really been a fan of the reflecting pool for some reason. Maybe you weren't even a fan of $14 million spent on fixing the thing up. If you're vandalizing a national park, as he's claiming, okay, that's a different story. That's where you got to get a little intolerant for that one. But you may be still asking the question that I am. But, okay, who? This is like, there's tourists walking by, there's people getting their laps in, there's bicyclists, there's all this. Who would be able to actually cut into the liner that they just put down in the reflecting pool? I think our answer came from last night. She's back. The amazing press secretary, Caroline Levitt, off from baby duty, starting to do some media, starting to talk about these different things. And of course, just like every other media outlet, Hannity last night was asking her about, What's going on with this? Now we're hearing about arrests around the reflecting pool. What's happening here? Listen to what she says about, and she kind of slipped up a little. I think she's a little rusty after being on baby duty. She slipped up and she let us know a little bit more about some of the vandals that they've arrested so far. Usually they don't do this, but this is a key thing. Listen to what she said.
Caroline, any more details on the 5 people that have been arrested regarding vandalism here?
The vandalism is very real, despite what Tim Walz wants to say. It's an imaginary problem. No, it is not. It's a very real problem. In fact, I spoke with the National Park Service just before joining the show. They now have 17 police reports that have been filed in just a matter of a few days. There's actually been 6 arrests at the reflecting pool where, again, these deranged individuals, many of them longtime donors to the Democrat Party, to Barack Obama, to Act Blue, that have been vandalizing and desecrating our federal monument, one of the most beautiful.
Hold on. Did she? First of all, the first thing, I'm still stuck on this. Tim Walz chimed in on this yesterday. I must have missed that one. Tubby Tim from Minnesota. But the other thing is, did you catch what she said there? They don't usually do this from the communications department. Many of these individuals connected with donating to Act Blue. Oh, okay. Hold on a second. This starts to answer my question, and maybe the same one you had. It would take some organization to be able to do this. Trump's talking about 100 some odd foot slash in the underlayer of this thing. How do you organize that to cause a distraction and then actually get it done? Act Blue. Oh, yeah. The left-wing organization that's funding a lot of the fake protests. Now I could see that as a possibility. That makes a lot more sense. And there is the point where we jump from green-haired algae enthusiasts. So what? That's really not, algae's going to be a thing. But wait a minute. When they started to get into the underlayer floating up on here, cut in pieces, Trump takes a flyover and says there is a gash, many gashes cut into it. And she mentions Act Blue and an organized effort to ruin this thing. Okay. Now I see why he's pissed. Now I'm pissed too. If this is an organized effort to ruin something that looked freaking awesome. And it raises the question, okay, you going to tolerate this? No. I think they should be. Now, he went a little bit crazy on Truth Social last night, and he's talking about, actual prison sentences for the amount of time and all this other stuff. But you have to do something here. They're not just the casual people with TDS who can't stand Trump and they want the whole algae to take over the entire thing because they hate beauty. More on that in a second. No, if this is an organized effort to desecrate national monuments, we've seen that before. We've seen that at the Lincoln Memorial. We've seen that at other things, not just the reflecting pool. We've seen that. Then you got to drop the hammer. You do. And I get that. And I hope they do. Because this is something completely, totally different. Because now you're talking about not just algae weirdos. You're talking about vandalism. And you can't have that. Well, it's just a pool. It's just a symbol. Hey, don't tell that to me. Tell that to all of the news networks that went full scale, investigative journalists, and they were putting cameras under the water to look at algae. Tell that to them if it's not so important now. And here's the other thing. If they find out this is an organized effort, and I think they're on that trail to intentionally vandalize in an organized effort to fund people to actually do this thing, watch the story disappear from CNN. All of a sudden, you're not going to have reporters on the scene with taking algae samples and all this other stuff. If they find out this is something way more than just your everyday, casual, run-of-the-mill TDS, well, then they won't cover it, will they? And this is where you should hope that they do prosecute these people. I really, truly, truly do. It's anything and everything to make Trump look bad. Anything they possibly can. But there's something deeper than this, though. What is it about? They hated the UFC 250 thing in front of the White House, the UFC events that happened there. They hated the celebration. They cringe when you talk about America's birthday coming up in literally days. Our 250th birthday, July 4th, is massive. It's great to see all the American flags, the patriotism, the symbolism everywhere. They hate that. There's something I don't think normal people are ever going to be able to understand about the loony left. They hate beauty. They hate it. They hate beautification. Not only it's more than just hating Trump. It's more than just TDS. It's something deeper than that. They hate beautification of anything that represents America. Despise it. Which makes sense when you put this together and put together all the clues in this trail why an organization like Act Blue, as Caroline Levitt is hinting at, possibly may be behind this in the actual vandalism, not just algae, but vandalism of the reflecting pool. This is where it's becoming something. If that's the case, I hope they find out whoever it was. And Trump probably will, because I think he's personally pissed off about this. I think he's taking this as a personal affront. Went out of his way to do this. And the money thing. Now that it's being exposed that previous administrations spent a hell of a lot, hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent. Obama administration spent $34 million to contractors who never were able to fix this reflecting pool, ever. But $14 million to make it look like this, and now look at it. And they're celebrating it. Well, it may be more than that. Bottom line, I would take a look at this. I would take a look at this thing because he's personally pissed. If we know anything about Trump, if it's a personal affront to him somehow, he's not going to let this go. He will direct the Park Service, National Guard, anybody, and he will turn this over to the FBI to find out exactly who vandalized this thing, if that turns out to be true. And you know what? If it is vandalism, good. You should. Nothing wrong with the Team Algae freaks on the sign with their dinosaur costumes and their signs. They're just weirdos. That's fine. They're not breaking any laws, and they're not hurting anybody as they talk to the algae, which is another story. But actual vandalism, yeah, you can't tolerate that, no matter where it is. Because where does it stop? So we'll see where it goes. Anyway, thanks for finding me. I appreciate you. Make it a wicked awesome Tuesday, whether you have a pool or not. Don't worry about the reflecting pool. Thanks for finding the audio podcast, wherever you like to get those as well. Post that shortly after the live stream. And the replay on all this stuff on X and YouTube and Facebook and everything else and everywhere else you can find it. Thanks for hanging out. Remember, there's always a good piece of the story in this thing. And little incidents like this, which seem like it's not a big deal with a reflecting pool, you find out exactly who's behind it, and you can see them a mile away. Take the good news with the bad, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.